Let me tell you, my life right now at 45 doesn't exactly look how I thought it would, and that's okay. So today, I thought I'd share life lessons, if you will, that I wish I could tell my younger self, and if any of these resonate with you too, that would make my day. So let me dive right in. The very first thing that I wish to tell my younger self is that you can believe that either you can or you can't, and either way, it's true. Because think about it. Every new brave thing that you do, any accomplishment in your life, all begins with giving ourselves this crack of possibility that, oh, maybe I can. Everything starts there. And when I look back at my life of how I did a big overhaul in my career at 29 when I left the communications industry and decided to go back to school to become a dietitian, also what I did at 39, which was to leave a toxic marriage and to stand on my own after feeling like I can't survive on my own, or when I started to get serious about my online business at 40. All of these things could have not happened without first giving myself this chance to dream differently, to consider a different possibility that, oh, maybe I can. And from there, I could take the first step to get out of the marriage, to declare that I deserved better, to say that, oh, I'm not too late to go back to school and study something new or to pivot my careers. All of this began with first getting out of my own way by believing that maybe I could. And I say maybe not because I want you to think, oh, maybe you can or you can't. That's not true. You definitely can do something that you dreamed of, but it can be hard to believe in that from the very beginning. It can be hard to have 100% certainty because how could we have 100% certainty in something that we haven't tried before? I felt that fear many times in life too. But when I give myself a little bit of maybe I can, that's a first step into fully believing in it eventually. And when I took those first steps, then the second step didn't feel so daunting. And then I could take the third step and the fourth step. And then over time, that uncertainty actually became a certainty and more of a confidence that, oh, I can do this, and I could. Which then brings me to the second point, that self-trust is not something that you're born with or something that you wait for to have one day. Self-trust, it's almost like a buzzword nowadays, and it's something that I've really practiced in the past 5 years, and that's the very thing. It's a skill, it's something you build over time, and only when you do something, even when you're scared, without having all the answers. Because we think that, oh, I can't trust myself because I don't have the answers, but how could you have all the answers for a brave new step that you're taking, for doing something new, for taking on a new challenge? And so without thinking that we have to have all the answers and control and have to have 100% certainty in yourself, because that's really impossible to have. But when you can take a deep breath and say, whew, I am not 100% sure that I can do this yet, but let me give myself a chance. Let me do it scared. And when you do, and when you survive that step, is when you build a small step of self-trust. And it really doesn't matter whether you actually succeed at it in a way that you thought it would go, because even when it doesn't go in the exact way that you thought it would, there's still so much that you can learn from any experience, all experiences. In fact, I would say that where I learned the most about myself and about life is in those moments where I felt like a failure, when I didn't get into my dream MBA school and then I was forced to completely rethink my career and my next steps, when I was getting out of my marriage and I started to rebuild a life for myself. In all of these moments, I didn't have that 100% self-trust just yet. But as I allowed myself to navigate through the messy middle, that's when the self-trust started to build. And now looking back at those difficult experiences in life, I can see that, wow, I was so brave to take the steps even when I wasn't 100% sure where it was going or when I didn't feel like I had all the answers. But I promised myself that I would do the best in every step. And when I did that over time, I can see that I was building self-trust for myself. And so if you're someone like me who feels that you have perfectionistic tendencies, or you like to plan every step before you even take the first step, or you really have difficulty with not having full control, this is what I hope you hear, is that you can still do the things in a messy way, and that's where you actually build more self-trust. I feel like there's a running theme in all of these life lessons that I'm sharing, but the third one is to not put yourself in any kind of box. That there's so much freedom when you take yourself out of the box. Because what I realized that I was doing for a long time was I was trying to find all the boxes that I could fit myself into. When I was a kid, it was putting myself in a good girl box. I wanted to be the good girl, to get outside approval from my parents, from my teachers. That was one of the early boxes I put myself in. As I grew older, I put myself in the box of I'm a type A perfectionist. I like to have control. I like to plan. This is who I am. And then when I started my professional career, a lot of times I put myself into those professional boxes of, oh, I'm a communication expert, or I'm a dietitian. And what I realized is that none of these boxes were fully meant to represent who I am. None of these boxes were my true and soul identity, because it's not the entirety of who I am. I'm not just a dietitian. I'm not just a good daughter. I'm not just a woman living in this world. I'm so many things. And when I can stop putting myself in a conventional box of any kind, because there's so many boxes that society tries to put on us, there are boxes that we build for ourselves, and none of these truly represent who we actually are. And what I realized most recently, even in my professional career, was that I wanted to pivot out of just being a anti-diet dietitian or just being a nutrition professional. And I realized that I don't want to just help people in their relationship with food and body. I also want to help women who are going through any type of life transitions, who want to have a deeper relationship with themselves, find who they truly are. And I said, oh, I'm going to help women build more self-trust with themselves, help them on their self-discovery path. And then I thought I would call myself a self-discovery coach. And then I soon realized that, wait a minute, I took myself out of the dietitian box just to put myself in another self-discovery coach box. And I don't want to put myself in any kind of boxes. I just want to be Mia. Mia is a dietitian. She's also a self-discovery guide, but also just a compassionate human being who has a lot of empathy and a lot of things to share with the world. And what if I just let myself be that complex and unique human and the multi-passionate professional that she is, without having to put myself in just one type of box? And that felt so freeing. And that's what I wish to tell my younger self. And that's what I wish to tell you if you're also struggling to find your identity, or you're struggling to find what box to put yourself in, because it's also understandable why we do this. We're wired for safety. We're wired to want to fit in. But I really want you to remember that it's okay to have those groups or those boxes or professions as part of our identity, but that none of them will be your full identity, because there's only one you who is such a unique human being and a unique soul on a spiritual level. And there is just no one like you, just like there's no one exactly like me. And when we can honor the unique beings that we are and the complex humans that we are, there is so much that we can bring to the world, because the more that we try to be like other people or like a certain person, or try to fit ourselves into a certain image of a person, that will never let the true and beautiful you shine in the way that you're meant to shine. And this is also a beautiful segue to the fourth message, which is something that I wish to yell at the top of my lungs, especially for every woman, which is to stop shitting yourself and give space to hear your own voice. And this is similar to putting ourselves into a box, because why we end up putting ourselves in a box is because we're following all these shoulds that are not our own. I was also someone who listened to a lot of shoulds from society, from school, from family, from the cultural messages I received growing up biculturally, both in America and in Korea. And oftentimes they conflicted with each other, which all the more made it difficult to really figure out what I was supposed to be doing. But what I arrived at is that there is no supposed to. I'm the only one who really gets to decide that. But the thing is, when we listen to all these external voices that are not your own, it's so hard to listen to your own voice and find what you really want. And this comes up with so many of my clients too, when I often ask them, what do you really want? And let me tell you, so many women, and I'm not trying to generalize, but just because I've worked with primarily people who identify themselves as women, and there are a very specific set of shoulds that we often receive as women, and often it's to make ourselves small, to shrink our own voices, to not be too much or too loud. Of course, not every culture is exactly the same, but at least in the cultures that I've been a part of and I grew up in, those have been the underlying messages in a lot of cases. And when we follow those shoulds, it's so hard to get in touch with what's really going to make me happy. And so if you keep looking for boxes to put yourself in, this could be that reason. It's because you're not really sure what you truly want because you've never had a chance to really hear your own voice, to get in touch with your internal wisdom and your internal knowing that we all have, that you have. And for me, it took a big crisis in my life. And that crisis was when I was breaking away from my marriage at 39. That was a turning point in my life that I really started to question all the values and the shoulds I was living by. And what I thought were values, I realized were actually rules that didn't come from my own internal voice, but I got married in a way where I thought I was supposed to. I chose the person that I thought I was supposed to. And it ended up being that those were not things that I really needed or wanted or what was going to make me happy. And for me, it took a crisis in my marriage. It took a divorce to do this kind of a reset into hearing my own voice. And oftentimes that's what it takes. It takes a crisis. It takes a life-shattering event to listen to our own voice, but it also doesn't have to. And that's why I'm sharing this as one of my big life lessons, that you don't have to wait until this catastrophic moment in your life to question all the shoulds and to take the time to listen to your own voice. You can do that at any point in your life. You can do that right now. To take a quiet moment, whether that's to unplug from all the social media and every external stimuli that we have in our lives, or to take a quick moment in nature, or to take a moment to journal, whatever that quiet moment looks like for you, take a moment just for yourself. And in the beginning, this can feel nerve-wracking, or you can feel like, oh, I took a quiet moment and I didn't hear anything. And it's because we're not used to that. You don't know yet how to elicit your own voice. So I hope this can be a reminder for you to start practicing that, to start giving yourself space to do that, even if it's just a few moments a day or even a few moments each week to begin with. And this brings me to my final life lesson, which is to let yourself live in the messy middle. Because I don't know about you, but for a large part in my life, I was living in this either or ends. I was either good or bad or right or wrong, or that I succeeded or failed. It actually turns out that life's most beautiful moments and the moments where I feel the biggest love and the biggest gratitude and I have the most life-changing lessons, it was in these detours where I thought I was failing, or in these moments where I thought my life was falling apart and I was so afraid of people judging me or feeling like I was falling behind in life. But these were actually the moments where my loved ones rallied around me and I got to deepen my connections with them. I also got to deepen the connection that I had with myself in those moments. And through allowing those messy middles where I could see both the grief and the gratitude, that's where I also experienced a lot of healing, a lot of love, a lot of deep emotions, and where I actually felt that I was alive, because life is nothing without allowing ourselves to feel. And when I say feel, I'm not just saying the good feelings, but also the heartbreaks, the sadness, the grief. Life only becomes full when we allow ourselves to experience the fullness of the spectrum that life really has to give us. There are no failures. That's the biggest life lesson that I learned, that no matter what happens in life or what experiences that I have, each individual moments don't define who I am. They don't define my worth. It certainly doesn't define whether my life is a success or fail, because I am worthy and I am enough just as I am, and so are you. So there you have it. I feel like I rambled on in this video, and if you watch my videos before, you know that I'm coming back after a few months of a hiatus. I've had a lot of things that happened both in my personal and professional life, and I needed to take a step back and think about what I really wanted to share here on my channel. And what I shared with you today really does summarize a lot of the thoughts that have been on my heart that I wanted to share with you here. So even though I feel like this video was very messy, I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to not should myself, and I'm going to let it be and allow myself to just be real instead of being perfect, because perfect is boring. And I hope this gives you permission to let yourself just be as well. If anything resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts on the comments. If this video helps just one person, it makes making these videos worthwhile. So let me know, and I will be back very soon. Thank you for watching.